let's say for this, I take the deck and I can give it a little shuffle just like this. And I can actually mix up the cards. And I can also give the deck another shuffle, but I can show you all of the cards here are being mixed up. So this is a new deck that was in new deck order. So that's why a lot of the suits are actually next to each other. But that doesn't matter. What matters for this effect is that we use only 6 cards here. So let's say we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The rest of the deck can go to the side. So now with these 6 cards, I would ask for the spectator to name a number out loud between 1 and 6, because we have 6 cards. So because I don't have a spectator here, I'm going to use a die. But if I did have a spectator, they can name a number out loud. So let's say in this case, they name 6. And this is great because if it usually was a number range, like 1 through 6, they couldn't name 1 and they couldn't name 6. So they would have to go 2 through 5. But in this case, they can really name 6. So we will count 1, 2, or actually, because you had 6, let's spell S-I-X. This is your card. Now, we're going to leave that to the side for now because we don't want to see it. And we can actually give these a little mix up. And I can ask the spectator how many times they want me to mix up the pack. So let's say they name once, and I already did 1. So now we would go ahead and take a look at this card and see what it is. So in this case, it's a 7 of diamonds. So the only thing we're worried about is the number, so 7. So what we're going to do is spell 7. So we can go S-E-V-E-N. Leave the N right there. So we can go S-E-V-E-N and leave that right there. S-E-V-E-N, and finally S-E-V-E-N. So keep in mind, the deck was shuffled. You could have had any number, and in this case you had 6. So we spelt 6, you had the 7 of diamonds. We mixed up the pack, and then we spelt 7. These cards landed to the side, but we got this card. And wouldn't it be amazing if this card was a match to this card? And right here is the 7 of hearts. But that's not all. The 4 cards right here that were outside of the 7s, they are none other than the 4 kings. And that is the effect. So if you would like to learn how to do this, be sure to stick around for the tutorial. So before I actually get into the tutorial, in case you're wondering about the cards I'm using, these are actually the Elvis Presley playing cards, which I reviewed in my last video. So if you didn't check out that video, I will link it down below. Okay, so let's get straight into this effect. So this is an effect by Adair called Surprise Spell, and I'm going to leave down below in the description who I learned this trick from as well. And I try to do that for all of my videos. So I always leave the channel and the video. So starting off this effect, you're going to take out a pair of cards you're going to use. Now in this case, I use the 7s. And something you want is you're going to want to use a pair of cards that have 5 letters. This trick works with cards that are 5 letters. Now you can play around and see if any other cards work, if any cards that aren't 5 letters work. But just to play it safe, I use 5-lettered cards. Now some other cards you could use are Queen, Queen. That's 5 letters. You could use 3, Three. You could use 8, Eight. And I think that's about everything you can really use. So you could use the 7s, the queens, the 3s, even 5s. You could use, well, Five. No, that wouldn't work. You could use 8s. So really the only cards you could use are 8s, 7s, queens, 3s, and I think that's about it. So let's get straight into this. I don't want to take too long going over that. But you're going to have a pair of cards, let's say the 7s, and you're going to have a 4 of a kind you're going to reveal at the end. Now in this case I did kings, but you don't have to use kings. So here's the setup. You're going to take one of that 4 of a kind and set it down. Take your pair of cards, in this case the 7s, and set those down. And then take the rest of your 4 of a kind and put those down. So now this is your setup. And all I did was I placed this on top of the deck. And now you're all set to go. So the first shuffle I did in the video was a false overhand shuffle, keeping the stack of cards on top. Now I'm not going to teach that shuffle because I have a tutorial on it already. So I will link that down below in the description. And I will also link how to overhand shuffle down in the description as well, because that's the second shuffle I did. But when I got near the top of the deck, all I did was I just placed this at the back, just keeping this stack on top. But feel free to do any false shuffles or cuts you would like. I'll probably link some false cuts down below as well. So after you do that, you can do one of two things. You can either say, for this trick, we need 6 cards, and you can take off 6 cards, or you can say, for this effect, we don't need a lot of cards, just a few, and you can actually just push off 6 cards, whether you do 2 groups of 3, or you can do 3 groups of 2, okay? You just need 6 cards taken off, which actually happens to be your setup. So after you have this, you're all set. You're going to spread these out, and you're going to ask the spectator for a number between 1 and 6. And this is great, because usually when you have a range of numbers, for example, 1 through 6, they can't name 1 and they can't name 6. But in this case, they really could. So I'm going to go over each of the numbers for you. So in this case, let's say they name 1. And also keep in mind, these cards would be face down, but for tutorial sake, they're going to be face up. So let's say the spectator names 1. What do? You say, okay, let's spell 1, because you can't count 1 here and have them choose one of the 7s, unless you push it away. Otherwise than that, it would be 2, and that would be a little weird. And then you can't do the bottom. So you're going to go with 1. So you're going to spell O-N-E, and it's going to be one of the 7s. So you can hand that to them and then continue with the trick. If they name 2, one of two things you could do. You could either count 1, 2, and hand them the second card, or you could actually spell TWO and hand them the third card. Now, let's say they name 3. Well, you can't spell 3, so you're going to have to count 1, 2, 3 and hand them the third card. If they have 4, what you're going to do is you're going to start at the bottom, and you can either count 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can spell Four. If they have a 5, same thing as before, you can start at the bottom and go Five, or you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And finally, if they have 6, you're gonna spell Six and hand them the 6 or the third card. So those are each of the numbers. I hope those made sense. Now let's say we roll it and they get a 4. So in this case, we're going to start at the bottom and go Four, or you can even count 1, 2, 3, 4. And in this case, I would actually ask the spectator, do you want me to count 4 or spell 4? If you can get the spectator more involved in the trick, I think the end result will be better. So you can hand them that card, and now you can either continue with the effect, or you can do a false shuffle. Not really a false shuffle, but it keeps the 7 where it needs to be. So here's all it is. You're going to take off the top card, take the second card and put it right on top of the first card, take the third card, put it right underneath that bottom card, take the next card, put it right on top of that 7, and the last card at the bottom, or the packet on top. And that actually retains everything. So the top card in your hand, this next card can go on top, this card goes at the bottom, top, bottom. And that actually retains everything. So you can do that shuffle, and they can name a number. Let's say 4. So you can really do the shuffle 4 times if you would like. I think that was 3. I'm probably wrong, but doesn't matter because it's going to retain it anyway. So now once you're done with that, you're all good. You can say, okay, let's see what card you have. In this case, a 7. And you explain that you're not worried about the suit as much about the value. So in this case, we're going to spell 7. And you're going to do that each time. So you're going to take the top card and put it to the bottom and explain one card for each letter. So we have S, E, V, E, and you're always going to take the N, that last card you stop on, and put it down. And say, let's go again. S, E, V, E, N, put it down. Because if you put the N to the bottom, you're actually putting the 7 down. That's no good. So then S, E, V, E, N, and last but not least, S, E, V, E, N. Put that down. So now the card will be face down, and that's the effect. You can recap the entire effect and say, okay, wouldn't it be amazing if the card you stopped on was the soulmate to the 7? They can turn it over, and they can see a perfect match. Let this sink in. Don't rush into this part, because this is already impressive enough. So once a few minutes have passed by, or however long, and they finally realize that they found a soulmate, you can say, know what else is amazing? You could have stopped on these 4 cards, but you didn't. You stopped on the 7, and if you had stopped on any of these 4 cards, you would have stopped on the 4 kings, or whatever 4 of a kind you have. And that is the effect. So, I hope you really enjoyed this one. If you're new here, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you next time with a new video. Bye.